Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
Hi, this is Kelly.
And this is Jenna.
And you're listening to ODFM.
This episode is One Draft from Murder.
Are we talking wind? Are we talking football? Are we talking war?
We're talking writing.
Oh,
like
right.
A first draft.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
We are back in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, back
Pacific Northwest.
Pacific Northwest.
I'm starting to worry about these people out there.
I know.
Like, I don't like to watch the news because, I live very close to Chicago and there's always shootings all weekend and lots of killing.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of murder plots happening out of I feel like we do a lot of Portland stories. I'm really starting to be concerned.
Yeah. Wasn't the one we did about the pig?
The pig was out there. I know there's been other ones too.
That was a very disturbing one.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting to really.
You know what? Maybe we should question our entire country. Maybe it's not just portions.
Right? I mean, I'm starting to really, we're always talking about Florida. I don't know, man.
Yeah, we're getting up there with the others. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got competition, Florida.
You've got competition. All right, so this is a more recent, Saturday, June 2nd, 2018.
Oh.
At 8:24 a.m., a 911 call comes in from the Oregon Culinary Institute to report that a man has been shot.
Oh, I figured it'd be knives. I mean, you're bunch
that
of
is
chefs
more
together.
Convenient, isn't it? You would think it's right there, right?
We got our knives, yes.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm. And the victim was chef and instructor Daniel Brophy. So they call in to be like, okay, so a colleague had arrived at the school that morning to find Dan laying on his back in front of a large sink. They have a big...
Yeah, the big kitchen size.
Right? And it was in an instructional room known as Kitchen 1. And then shortly after the colleague came in and found him, a student arrived and then that's the one who made the call to 911.
Jeez.
The Oregon Culinary Institute goes by OCI, so I'm going to refer to it as OCI.
I like it.
So
sounds
OCI,
a little bit like CSI.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Ooh, which is the Culinary Institute, or isn't there? There is a CSI for Culinary something Institute.
Maybe there is.
I thought. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So we have to be very specific when we're talking about these things.
SI. Got it.
Okay, so OCI is both a school and a restaurant.
Oh, fantastic. Kind of like when you can go to the schools that are like hair cosmetology schools and get cheaper haircuts.
Exactly.
Because they're practicing on you. Okay.
Exactly. It's where they get some real world experience.
Yeah, and they'd be like, here, let me food poison you.
The students of the school, they actually serve 3-course lunches and 4-course dinners as part of their schooling.
Dang, I didn't know that was a thing.
So it's not like they're slinging burgers like at McDonald's. They're getting some. Dan Brophy had been teaching at OCI since it opened in 2006. So that was about 12 years he had worked there.
Okay.
And he'd been a chef for over 40 years.
Oh, dang.
And at the time of his death, because he was shot and killed, he was 63.
Oh, man.
Right.
He was close to retirement.
He's getting there, right?
So close.
Right?
Okay.
So police estimated that Dan had arrived at the school about an hour earlier.
Okay.
As he was regularly known to be the first one there. And he had disabled the school's alarm system at 7:22 a.m.
Okay.
So they knew that the alarm system was shut off then. It appeared that Dan had been filling up jugs in the sink with water and for ice, for water and coffee.
Okay. To set out.
Right. So he was at the sink, and that's what he usually did when he first got there. So that's what they were like, yeah, this is probably what he was doing. And someone had shot him in the back. So he didn't know. He probably couldn't even have heard over all the faucet going and all that, right?
No. Okay.
Right.
So it wasn't just like an accident or
No. So he was shot in the back, and then he was shot again in the chest.
Jesus, to make sure.
At close range. So it looked as though the shooter stood over him.
They're like, I'm going to make sure this dude's dead.
Exactly. This was no oops situation. 2 9mm shell casings were found near his body. Dan's phone, his watch, his wallet, including all of his cash and credit cards, all of that was still there.
Okay, nobody wanted money.
Yep, so this wasn't a robbery, right?
Plus, I wouldn't go to a school necessarily to get any money.
Yeah, right. Well, they did notice that there was a lot of expensive cooking equipment in the school.
Yeah, I suppose.
None of that had been touched, right?
Okay.
So no one else had been in the building at the time. Well, obviously, the killer.
Yeah, because it's like, unless he somehow ricocheted it off of something.
So, but it was obvious that this was not a robbery or some kind of vandalism gone wrong. Someone went there. This was an execution.
They went there with that purpose.
With that purpose in mind, right? And he was pretty obviously the target. There's no signs of forced entry. It was, like I said, Dan was typically the first in the building, and he would go in, shut off the alarm system, and then he would open a garage door, like a big industrial garage door, to bring in supplies.
Okay, yeah.
And so there was easy entry from the street.
Oh, shit.
And unfortunately, the school didn't have any security cameras. Not inside, not outside. Nope. 2018, people. Let's do this.
It's not like the 1900s, as my kids say.
The 1900s. Oh, God. They had a security system, but they didn't have any kind of cameras or anything. So news of this shooting spread pretty quickly because, students are texting each other. So the news got a hold of it. The local news reported that someone had been shot at OCI. Around 10:30 a.m., Dan's wife, Nancy, arrived at OCI after hearing, hey, so it's been a shooting at the school.
Okay.
I don't know how she heard, if it was on the news, someone called her, I don't know. So she immediately goes over there. She knows that's where her husband is.
Yeah.
And police quickly ushered her into a quiet place so that they could privately give her the news that her husband had been shot and killed. And she was upset, shocked, surprised. Once she had time to process what had happened, she told detectives that Dan had left their home in the nearby suburb of Beaverton shortly after 7 a.m. This was all very typical.
Oh, no.
No,
okay.
nothing was out of the ordinary this morning,
just
right?
Fine. No warning that something was coming.
No. So, they just asked her the usual questions. And after a short interview, they sent her home to grieve, notify relatives,
You go home and grieve.
We'll get back to you.
We'll get back to you. Because that's how they should say it.
Right. When police started interviewing the people in Dan's life, a possible motive was presented.
Oh.
And the only possible motive that came to light was a potentially disgruntled student.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Like, how dare you give me an F?
Right.
That was some really good tomato bisque.
Tomato bisque. That was canned and you know it. Okay. Dan could be harsh. He was a good teacher, but he was a tough teacher.
Yeah. Well, you hear that. I mean, look at Gordon Ramsay.
Exactly. That's exactly who I thought of. Right. So, and he himself would admit that he was tough. He had high expectations.
Okay.
And he had trained with many European chefs.
Ah, yes. See?
Right? Just like, and so that's the first thing I thought of too, was like Gordon Ramsay, right?
Yeah.
High expectations, right?
I don't understand why that's a thing, though, in culinary work. Like, you expect to be
I don't know.
called a donkey and stuff. Like, stupid donkey. Like, where anywhere else you don't expect to be treated that way.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. But he was also beloved by many of his students, right?
Okay.
He was always looking for new techniques, new ingredients. He had a degree in he had a degree in marine biology as well.
Oh, what? Wow.
Right? And he would take his students on field trips.
Cool.
And he was an expert in foraging for edible mushrooms.
What? Truffles?
And so he would often take students into the woods to pick fresh ingredients.
Fun. Yeah,
right?
That would be really fun. Until I got the wrong mushroom, but.
Exactly. Right. He was also a beekeeper.
Oh, I love my bees.
Exactly.
Aww,
so
how cool. Fresh honey.
Right, and he gardened. He had, he would grow his own herbs and stuff like that, So it wasn't just, he
had a
made
true
sure
passion for this.
Yeah. He made sure they were all very well-rounded. He also had a great sense of humor. His dry, witty comments were known by his students as Brophyisms.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So they had a name for him and everything.
He has his own term
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
And like I said, he was a fantastic chef, and he also spent time feeding the homeless.
Oh, man.
This is an all-around great guy. So
cool.
He's tough, but,
But a good person.
Right. So they're like, okay, that was the only thing anyone could come up with. Right.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Right. And so they're like, all right. Detectives are like, we'll make note of that and we'll start looking into his students. But, as usual, they got to look into the spouse.
Let's
right?
look at the wife. All right. What's she up to?
Dan met Nancy Crampton in 1990, when she was actually his culinary student.
Oh.
Right.
Little something in the freezer.
The freezer?
Burr.
The freezer. Burr. Oh, my God. Stop. Oh, God. Okay. Nancy at the time, she was divorced and she had moved to Oregon from Texas.
Oh, okay. That's a big move. Yeah.
Dan was still married at the time, but their relationship was purely teacher-student at that point, right?
Okay. No something in the freezer.
No hanky. Not that I'm aware of. There was no something, right? Okay. Nancy actually graduated and then opened her own catering company.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
And Dan and Nancy kept in touch. They are in the same circles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they cook.
Right. I mean, how big is the culinary world in
True.
And
Portland? Especially, like if you are catering events, you'd probably run into each other quite a bit with those.
That's what I would imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then once Dan divorced, they started a relationship. And Nancy even employed Dan's adult son, Nathaniel, at her company.
Oh, cool.
So, they knew each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dan and Nancy seemed to complement each other, although some found it odd that, I don't know, I found this weird, but I put it in here anyway. Some people found it odd that he would refer to Nancy as the management or the cruise director.
I think it's hilarious.
I've heard that before. I know people that are like, what are you guys doing Saturday? Well, I have to check with the cruise director.
Right.
I mean,
totally. I love it. I don't find that odd. I find that pleasing and cute.
Right? I mean, if someone was asking me about that, I wouldn't even think to bring that up. I'd be like,
no.
What?
I'd be like, yeah. Let's check with the boss. That's
right. And those who knew him understood that's just his sense of humor.
Totally. Yeah.
But apparently, I find it odd that was even brought up.
What? That seems great to me.
Exactly.
Be sure to mention that I am the boss because truth be told.
I'm glad everyone knows what the situation is here. There's no questions of roles. But the physical demands of the catering company took a toll on Nancy. It's a very physically demanding job,
on
right?
your feet the whole day. Ugh.
Right.
No.
And she ended up selling it after about 10 years.
Oh, good
and
for her,
she started selling insurance to pay the bills.
Yeah. All right. That's a big change.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Big change, right?
Yeah.
And then she also tried her hand at writing.
Oh, nice. Okay. So she gets her creativity in a different way.
Exactly. Her passion was mystery romance novels.
Ooh.
So she actually self-published a whole book series that you can find on Amazon, by the way. And they all centered around having the word wrong in the title. There was the wrong cop, the wrong lover, the wrong husband, right?
That's amazing.
And all the books had the tagline, wrong never felt so right.
Oh, no. I feel a little skeevy now.
I know, right?
Wrong. That's so right. Oh, no.
Right. Okay. So Dan and Nancy were also very active in their grandchild's life.
Oh, cute.
Dan's son, Nathaniel, had a daughter. Around this time, Dan and Nancy had been together for about 25 years, and they were making plans for retirement together.
Yeah, they've been there a long time.
They'd been together for a long time. Okay. Yeah.
So it wasn't Mr. Wrong. He was Mr. Right.
Exactly. 2 days after Dan's murder, a vigil was held at OCI. Hundreds of people attended. Hundreds, right?
Okay.
And Nancy shared loving words and memories with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, detectives attended because they were like, okay, we know how this goes. Sometimes a killer comes. Yeah, they want to attend. They want to see what's going on. So, so they were there, but nothing really stood out to them.
No shifty guys in trench coats. And
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Sunglasses, even though it's like an 80-degree day and sunny.
He's shifty-eyed.
Yeah, I don't know what they're looking for exactly, but they didn't see it.
All right.
However, detectives were suspicious when Nancy began packing up Dan's things and selling them in the weeks right after the vigil.
Yeah, that's kind of a big
Right.
Let's look at Nancy's debts.
Yeah.
Now-
So, but friends and family were like, no. They had already been planning that they were going to downsize their house.
Okay.
They're like, no. And then also Nancy, they were like, Nancy had been really struggling being in the home without Dan.
Okay.
Surrounded by all his things. So
Yeah,
this
I
was
get that.
part of her grieving process. Like everyone who knew
Right.
them were like, no, there's a reasonable explanation
okay.
for this.
Okay.
But then there was another reason that Nancy was on their radar.
Oh.
Just a few days after the murder, they had received what they considered an odd phone call from Nancy, which they happened to record.
Oh, good. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she told them that she had called the insurance company where she had a life insurance policy on Dan.
Nancy. Oh. You've
I know,
got to
man.
wait a while, honey. God damn it.
So she calls and she speaks to detectives and she's like, look, I spoke to the insurance company and what they need is a letter from you that says that I'm no longer a suspect.
Oh, good God, Nancy. I mean, if she writes these murder mystery things or the romance mysteries,
yeah, right?
I guess maybe she's not into the murder part of it.
Yeah. But they're like, I'm sorry. Now, why would you need that?
Yeah.
And she said, and this is a quote from the recording, because they don't want to pay if it turns out that I secretly went down to the school and shot and murdered my husband.
Oh, wow. And she can say this with a straight face.
Yes, this is what she said
while
on the phone
she's
to the police.
grieving.
Right.
Dude.
Police were like, well, this is not normal. This is unusual.
Well, now I'm not going to sign the letter.
We've never asked for this before. And Nancy was like, oh, I agree. And she said, quote, this is such a stupid little policy. I can't believe they're making me jump through the hoops like this. It's only around $40,000.
Okay, that's not what we were thinking was weird. It was you asking us to do this that was weird. Oh, right. My God. Okay.
Exactly. So that was the first real red flag. I mean, they had the red flag of the whole packing up his stuff and selling it. Then there was this weird situation, which, by the way, they're like, we're not writing that letter. We're not putting in writing that you're not a suspect.
Not yet.
That's not happening.
We got to clear this first.
Okay.
Wow.
The next red flag was they discovered that back in 2011, Nancy had written an essay called How to Murder Your Husband.
Oh.
Which she had posted on her blog.
Oh, no, Nancy. Wow.
Right?
All right.
And it was written from the persona of a woman who wants to murder her husband. She was not writing as herself.
Oh, right. Well, I mean,
right. Yeah. I mean, this is creative writing. This is fiction, right?
At least she tried to fictionalize it. Okay.
But allow me to read you a couple quotes.
Oh, please. Please do.
The first is, divorce is expensive. And do you really want to split all your possessions?
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Then there was, or if you married for money, aren't you entitled to all of it? The drawback is police aren't stupid. They are looking at you first. So you have to be organized, ruthless, and very clever.
Which she is not. I mean, wow. Honey.
Right. Then there is this quote. I don't want to worry about blood and brains splattered on my walls. And really, I'm not good at remembering lies. But the thing I know about murder is that every one of us has it in him/her when pushed far enough.
She forgot they, just saying. But also,
from that. That's what you focused on. I mean, fair, but this was in 2011.
I know. It wasn't quite.
But,
oh my God. Wow. Woman. It's like she's like, here I am. I'm going to flashlights. It's me.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So although this was a supposed work of fiction, investigators thought it was reason enough to do a little more digging on Nancy and their marriage. They're like, I really think we're onto something. I think there's a thread we need to pull here.
Yeah.
Investigators recovered evidence from Nancy's laptop showing that 6 months before the murder, she had visited a website called Ghost Guns.
Oh, no. Are these the printable kinds?
So
3D printing?
Okay. I
No?
was having a hard time telling, and it could be. What I found was you could purchase unserialized, that's not an easy word to say,
No.
unserialized and unregistered firearms.
Oh, no. What? They make them?
From the flippin' internet. Right.
Oh, no.
So Nancy had purchased a gun kit that she had to put together herself. So it came in pieces.
Oh, so that's how they get around the registration and stuff, is to say, oh, this is something you make yourself, so we don't have to put
Yeah, but it's sort of fucking
numbers on it.
Legos. I mean, like, whatever.
Wow.
So the laptop also showed Google searches for info on Glock revolvers and gun shops in the area.
Hey, well, maybe she's just gun happy, like most
Exactly.
of America.
Well, and again, remember, she's a writer.
Yeah, she's researching. That's true. If
Although,
anybody looked
I mean,
at my
come on,
shit.
look at our right. Our
I have
search
thought of
history
that
is
so many times. Like as I'm searching, I'm like, oh God, please don't make this look like I'm going to look like a murderer. Like
right.
Freaking A.
I know. It's yeah.
Get it.
All right. So then 4 months before the murder, Nancy attended a gun show and purchased a 9mm Glock 17 and registered it in her name.
Okay, so she does have something registered. And the bullets that were found, the casings were 9mm. I know you said that.
Were.
Interesting.
You were paying attention.
Yeah.
So she had told police that on the day of the murder that she owned the gun. You know, on that murder, she's like, yeah, I do actually own a gun, by the way.
Okay.
But at the time, she wasn't a suspect. You know, they just...
They were just checking.
Yeah, they're talking and all this. And she's like, they probably were like, do you own a gun? Yes, I do. It's registered.
Yeah.
Okay, so then investigators also discovered that Nancy purchased a Glock slide and barrel on eBay.
Oh my God, that's disturbing. Okay.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just getting all my eBay gun materials.
Exactly. The parts that are used... Okay, these are the parts that are used to tell if a shell casing comes from a particular gun.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Yikes. I'd be afraid. Like, what if somebody had used it in a murder and then they're like, okay, I'm going to go sell this on eBay now.
Right.
Now it's
And
out of
they
my hands.
Oh, yes, I didn't think
Oh,
about that,
shit.
right? No wonder they're selling it, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Interesting.
3 months after Dan was killed, Nancy was arrested and charged with his murder. They're like, I think we got enough stuff here. This is fishy enough, right?
Wow. I'm surprised they went that fast.
So am I, right? In April of 2022, the judge ruled that the blog post with the How to Murder Your Husband essay could not be presented to the jury because it was too prejudicial. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it points right at her. Like how? Oh, okay.
Right. But the prosecutors were like, okay, we're still able to present to the jury evidence that we found on the laptop, as well as they had a police officer demonstrate how easily a slide and barrel could be swapped between guns.
Oh, great.
So that, they had that. Yeah. It was their theory that Nancy had shot Dan with the Glock using the spare slide and barrel, not the one that was registered, and then disposed of just those parts, and then put the original back in the Glock so that forensics couldn't prove that the shots that killed Dan came from her registered gun.
Wow. Well, that was pretty smart.
Nobody had or has the slide and barrel. Mm-hmm. There was the one show that I watched, they interviewed and they're like, there's water all over here. It could be anywhere.
True.
Yeah. So they don't have it. They didn't have it. Right. They also presented at trial video surveillance from businesses around OCI. Nancy's gray minivan circling the building 40 minutes before Dan arrived and disarmed the alarm, right?
That's super sussy.
Right. She had told the detectives that, like, it was typical morning. Dan got up. She stayed in bed. He said goodbye. He left,
And is that what she said that morning, too?
She said it was the same deal, right?
Okay, yeah.
So now this is a gray minivan. There's a lot of gray minivans.
There's so many gray minivans.
But they were able to confirm that it was Nancy's van because there was a large scratch on the driver's side that was visible on the surveillance tape.
Someone keyed her and they wrote, bitch.
That would be very obvious, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was a pretty serious piece of damage because you could see, surveillance tapes are not all that clear. You could see it in the surveillance tapes, right? Yeah. So this is why you should get your shit fixed.
A little. Yeah. She caught the curb a little tight and got the light pole.
Right. Exactly. They were able to show that. So they confirmed that it was her van, or they at least tried to show. They're like, we're pretty sure it is, right?
Yeah.
And based on cameras from different buildings around the area, she circled the building a few times before Dan arrived. Like she was casing the joint.
Yeah, that's weird. Is anybody else here? No,
right, exactly. Empty. And it's pretty early in the morning. It's like around 7 a.m., right? So since Dan had opened the garage door, like he always does, Nancy could have easily walked right to that kitchen. I'm sure she was very familiar. She was a student there, right? Shot him in the back as he stood at the sink in kitchen 1.
Uh-huh.
And then
shot him in the front after he fell.
And then, Oof. It appeared like he was shot in the back. Then he fell on his back. And then someone stood over him and shot him at close range right there, pointing down. So Nancy's van was also videoed driving away from the area of OCI at 7:29. So that's a very particular window where she was driving around before. Yeah. And then she's not on camera for a short period of time. And then
driving off.
Because he disarmed it at 7:22. And they saw her in a camera driving away from the building at 7:29.
So she could have gotten it. Bam, bam. Run away.
Right.
Whoa. Okay.
Exactly. The prosecution then presented that their theory for what Nancy's motive was money.
The $40,000?
Well, remember how Nancy had sold insurance?
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
Turns out that wasn't the only insurance policy.
Oh, she forgot about a couple others.
Yeah, she knew about all those. So
those vending machine ones.
Those vending machine ones, exactly, right? She actually had multiple policies totaling about $1.5 million.
Well, that's a much bigger motive then, yeah.
Yes, that's a much bigger motive.
Oh, shit.
All right. So in her defense, Nancy's lawyers tried to create reasonable doubt by suggesting the video surveillance they also viewed the surveillance videos.
Okay.
There was a homeless man in the area at the time of the murder.
Driving minivans?
No, just walking through the parking lot of OCI.
Okay, so
they're like, it could have been the homeless man.
He
took robbed
his
him.
block and
right. Exactly. Now he had no motive.
Right.
Right. He didn't steal anything or take his watch no
wallet or anything.
They were just trying to
felt like shooting someone
reasonable
today.
Doubt. No. He was there, so why not?
Okay.
They were adamant that Nancy was still in love with Dan. And that although they had had financial issues in the past, they had turned a corner and they were actually doing okay at the time of the murder.
Okay, well, maybe she wanted to do okayer.
Exactly. Maybe okay was not good enough.
Yes, it was just, Then
Nancy made another serious error. She testified in her own defense.
Ooh. Oh, goody. Let's hear this. That would be so interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah. Oh. She told the jury that she had read an article about a man in California who had bought a gun kit online, put it together himself, and then killed his family. And so that article had sparked an idea for her next novel where
I wanted to try it out first.
Hey, you want it to be realistic, right? You got to do the research.
This doesn't really right.
Right. So she had this idea for a novel where there was a woman who was afraid. I don't know if from her husband, boyfriend, right? There was a woman who was afraid. So she bought a gun kit online. So all the gun purchases she made were research.
Right.
Okay. I mean, somewhat reasonable doubt, I
guess. I research a lot of things, but I don't go and buy like Bowie knives and stuff.
Exactly, right? So as far as why her van was seen in the vicinity of OCI on the morning of her murder, she also had a great explanation.
Oh.
Nancy testified that she has no memory of the morning of the murder.
Yeah, that's a great excuse.
Yeah.
Just don't remember.
She remembers speaking to Dan in the morning before he left And then the police telling her to go to OCI because there had been a shooting. And she had stress-induced traumatic memory loss.
Okay, but that doesn't mean she didn't do it.
Right.
It means that she just doesn't remember it.
She doesn't remember, right? If that's even the case.
Yeah.
So she believes that morning she got up and went to Starbucks that was right over there because, well, it's Portland. I mean,
yeah.
They're everywhere. I'm sure there was probably one even closer to her house, but what have you. Okay. She went to Starbucks and then just drove around while working out the plot of her next novel in her head because this is something she does all the time, part of her process. She would get in her car, go to Starbucks, and then just kind of aimlessly drive around. So she was like, that's probably what I did. I probably didn't even occur to me that's...
Okay, so can we go to Starbucks and get your receipt then?
And we have done that in several episodes, yeah. That would have been helpful.
Starbucks
no, didn't have that, right? Yeah, so the bottom line is the jury only took 8 hours to find her guilty.
Oh, snap. Damn.
Yeah. They found her guilty of second-degree murder.
Whoa.
She was sentenced to life.
Second degree. That seems like it could have been first degree, right? Like
Right?
she planned it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know. That was premeditated. I mean, we're talking months. We're talking gun purchases. We're talking a whole
drove around 3 times.
Right?
I mean.
I'm not sure how they got that. But all right.
Man.
Because she doesn't remember? I don't know. Yeah, that was odd. But I was like, all right. But she was sentenced to life in prison.
All right.
So, all right, this is cool.
That's
right?
good. Let's do this.
And this was at the age of 71.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, she doesn't have much life in prison.
Right. Exactly. She'll be eligible for parole in 25 years. So it's a life sentence.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, unless she's got really good genetics, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Damn, girl.
That is the story of Nancy Crampton Brophy.
Wow, Nancy. And the book never materialized.
She thought she was so clever. I mean, well, she's got all the time in the world to finish that book now.
Yeah, yeah. Woman.
And those books that she did write, all the wrong books, right? Those are, they are on Amazon. I saw them.
Oh my God. So does she still get, that's what I always wonder. Like, can they still make money from previous work
so that
they did?
Buy cigarettes
royalties?
and shit?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Their commissary.
I wonder.
Because I mean, inflation. But
inflation
goes up everywhere.
Okay, but think of all the research in prison she can do now.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Tell me your story. All right, cool.
Yeah. Oh, man.
She doesn't even have to buy a gun. She's just got these murderers just around her. They can give her all kinds of ideas. Yes,
Did you run out of all your appeals?
Right,
okay,
you're
perfect.
saying here?
Let's write your story then.
Give me a whole... Yeah. Don't worry, I'll change the names.
That woman in cell block D.
I'm really good at making things sound like fiction.
Yeah.
Except I'm not.
Except for my own story. Except I suck. Oh my God, that is insane. Woman.
Oh my God, I know, right?
And why they've been together so many years. Why now?
Yeah, I'm still not totally sure. I think I saw a couple things where they were talking about like Dan wasn't ready to retire.
Oh, and she was like, I'm ready to retire you.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you.
Exactly. Well, I am, and I have other plans.
Yeah. So get this shit over with. Plus, you're worth more dead than alive. So I'll just go ahead and collect all the insurance.
Right.
Yeah, woman.
Now she gets to be in jail. Oh, hey, maybe she can work in the kitchen.
Oh, good idea.
I mean, she's a trained chef.
More beans. I'm going to ferment them tonight. So we'll have some special bean vodka tomorrow.
Oh, God.
Gross.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Would you like to hear my sources?
Yes, I want to hear your sources.
All right. So I watched a Dateline, season 30, episode 30. Oh, my God. Do they have a lot of Datelines, right?
So many
this one was called Murder in Kitchen 1. Murder in Kitchen 1. I feel like they could have come up with a better name. But,
I mean, I guess it's very truthful.
People.com, NewYorkPost.com, OregonLive.com, and... I picked up a couple things from Wikipedia.
Of course, Wikipedia's
there's always stuff I gotta look up.
OG.
You never know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wow.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to us one more time, and we will bring you another fun story next week.
Hey, Oddies! Thanks for listening to another episode of ODFM. If you're a longtime listener, hey, we cannot thank you enough for your continued support. And if you're a new listener, thanks for giving us a try. If you like us, please drop us a like, subscribe, or rate us so we can share our stories with more people around the world. And if you'd like more information, like links to our podcast and socials, along with our Patreon fan page, those links are all on Linktree under ODFM Podcast. That's linktr.ee/ODFM Podcast. Side note, you guys, we're obsessed with fan art, and we love making things with it, like stickers for our fans. So if you'd like us to use your designs, send it to us at odfmpodcast@gmail.com. And if we use your design, we'll be sure to send you a sticker.
Thanks for listening to another episode of ODFM, hosted by Kelly DeVries and Jenna Swanson. Production and editing by Kelly DeVries. Theme music by Eric Swanson. ODFM is a satirical true crime podcast for entertainment purposes only. The stories you hear are serious and true. The comments and opinions are not. We apologize if any of our content is harmful or disrespectful.